Welcome to a brand new season of Scintillations, the podcast that explores what's now and what's next in consumers, culture, and the business of branding. This season, we'll be studying Swiftonomics. Join us as we talk to marketing experts, business leaders, and entrepreneurs about what makes Taylor Swift the best brand on the market. Listen in as we unravel the secrets behind her ability to capture hearts, minds, and market share, exploring what makes her a powerhouse of success. If you're a bona fide Swiftie, if you just don't get the hype, or you want to know what you can learn and apply in your own business, this season is for you. Now let's get started with your host, Erika first.
Hello, Samiha. Thank you so much for being with me today.
Thank you. I'm super excited, Erika. Thanks for reaching out. I'm super excited about it.
Awesome. Well, why don't we get started with you telling us a little bit about who you are and what it is that you do?
Perfect. I am Samiha. I work at a gaming industry as an onboarding specialist, a senior advisor in the onboarding space. I have around 5+ years of experience in technical recruitment. I started my journey as a recruiter. I always wanted to do something in the HR field. When I was young, I did my bachelor's in human resources and also my master's in human resources. Something to do with people. That was always what excite me. I would love to know how can I help them, grow them, inspire them, and then started my journey in Canada. Moved from Bangladesh and got my first gig as a tech recruiter. So I love sharing experiences with candidates, hiring managers, helping companies grow, and then kind of shifted. It's trying to slowly shifting my expertise to HR. So now I'm working on the onboarding side.
Awesome. So today, we're going to be talking about Taylor Swift. And the topic that we're going to be talking about is Taylor's intentional focus on engaging her fan base. Like, she knows exactly what she wants them to do and why. And I'm going to start off by reading a quote from her from an interview that she did in 2022 with Jimmy Fallon, where she talks about the dawn of the Easter eggs. For those of you who don't know anything about Taylor Swift, she is notorious for planting messages, clues, signals, Easter eggs in every single thing that she does, in her lyrics, in her album covers, in her social media posts, in her press releases. And everything is kind of a giant game that spans multiple years. It's not isolated, and it separates the newbies from the Swifties. Because if you look at a video and you're like, oh, that was a cute video, then you're pretty new to the brand. If you're like, oh, that's the dress, and hold on, that 2 o'clock means something. So it's not only an engagement tactic, it's also a fan club badge of honor. And of course, this is important also for gaming. And so we'll talk about that in a second. So here is her quote from the interview with Jimmy Fallon. She said, it's sort of a tradition that we started a very long time ago. I think the first time that I started dropping cryptic clues and things in my music is when I was 14 and 15, putting together my first album. And I wanted to do something that incentivized fans to read the lyrics, because my lyrics are what I'm most proud of out of everything that I do, out of every aspect of my job. So I really wanted people to read the lyrics. And when I was a kid, I used to leaf through CD booklets and just read the teeny tiny print and obsess over them. And so I wanted to incentivize them. So in my lyrics for the first several albums, I would have all lowercase letters, except for a capital here, a capital here. And if they circled the capital letters and wrote them down, it spelled out a secret code, a secret passage. It was really fun. And I would either tell a story about the album or hint about what the song was about. And so that's when it started. But when it got out of control was when I started to realize that it wasn't just me that had fun with this, that they, the fans, had fun with it too. And I should never have learned this, because then I couldn't stop. And then I started thinking of, how do I hint at things? How far in advance is too far in advance? Can I hint at something 3 years in advance? Can I even plan things out that far? I'm going to try and do that. And in this interview, she goes on then to explain that the fans started doing exactly what she had hoped for. They were intensely scrutinizing her material, which from a business standpoint means more streams, more views, more engagement time. So this is an incredibly strategic move here. So I think this whole thing with the Easter eggs, and it's crazy because I was a fan, and then I started digging into the brand, and the more you dig, the deeper the rabbit hole goes. And then you're like,
Agree.
"Oh, okay." And to me, it can get a little bit worrying because they're,
Yeah. Like
you know
how far is too far, right?
right?
That's kind of, but that's the community that she creates, is there is no limit. Like you could think, and I love the fact that she talks about incentivizing, which is super exciting. As I feel we as human beings, we feel that we won. Like we figured something out. That rush gives us to bet, oh my God, we did step one. Let's do step two. Let's do step three.
Yeah. Now, coming from, as you say, going into the levels, coming from gaming industry, so there's definitely parallels between what Taylor does and the gaming industry. How could
Of course.
you see another company being able to create something like this or work this into their marketing plan?
I feel the first important thing that even, Taylor focuses on is figuring out what you like as a brand, like what you want to be. It's absolutely similar as a human being. Like sometimes like you have your values. You can't keep changing to how the world is changing everywhere around you, because like change is great. I love that fact, but more so like you got to have your own solid things that you are really, really passionate about. As for example, here Taylor first started doing this because she believed in it. She had the fun for it. And then the community was built on top of that. Right. So
Yeah.
as gaming industry, and as I like, any other industries or like any other companies would want to do or step up their game in community building, I feel it's very important to understand your values at first. Who are you going to cater to? What are your goals and missions and like values that you feel very strongly about? And once you have that set and give it to the universe or give it to the industry itself, there will be people coming towards that think alike. Because if you are thinking something and if you are having fun with it, there are people who in the world they might actually love it. So in this Taylor Swift's case is exactly the same, where at first she thought she is the only one who's having fun with it, but there are a lot of people who also figured it out and start putting in the social media. And if you want to be yourself, there is a lot of opportunities for you to do it. You don't need to conceal and hide yourself as a brand.
Yeah, and I think so one of the positions that I've kind of always held, on marketing is that if you try and sell something, people are then you have to convince me, and most of our decisions are emotional, so you've actually picked a much harder path if you're coming in with a list of rational reasons.
Yeah.
And so if you try and engage me, then usually the purchase or time I spend with your brand is a byproduct of you having pulled me in.
Absolutely.
And I love the idea, that you say you have to know what's meaningful for you. Cause she was like, my lyrics are the most important thing.
Exactly.
So for me, it's really important that you read and feel my lyrics. How can I do that? So for companies, it's less like, well, I need you to buy because that shouldn't be the primary strategy. It should be, how can I get people to engage that then has them purchasing as a collateral or as a byproduct behavior of being engaged with my primary objective.
Absolutely. And I feel one of the main reasons why brands resonate with their community a lot, if you look at any examples out there, like Airbnb, Google, like all the good big tech brands, I've seen like they want to aware people, they want to engage people, they want you to learn about it. Airbnbs is one of the thoughts I've seen is like belong anywhere.
Yeah.
There are people who don't want to be tied into one home. They want to go, there's like the concept of digital nomads. You can go and work from anywhere. You would love the concept of you don't have to have a certain space. I believe when they started doing it, maybe they have that idea and they were like, let's put it in the world. And there were other people like, yeah, I like that. I am in love with it. And they started doing. So I believe the thing that you said, like having a meaningful stance on the brand is much more important, rather focusing on how can I sell it. Selling will be a byproduct when you are wearing them, giving in them, or making them happy and excited. I feel when the brand is able to connect with you emotionally, that's where the jackpot is, because that emotion speaks a lot. For Taylor Swift, of course, I feel like her songs, the lyrics, like everything she does, the way she talks to the young crowd, woman being her, like it's very everything it tied and strategic, but also I believe that it's her. Like it's she as a personality is such a good it's such a great woman persona that I look at her and be like, oh wow, that's empowering. Like I love how she's taking on stands. She's not like, following whatever everybody's told her to follow, more like I like this and I am me. This is me. If you like me, great. I love that. And for a lot of younger women, even in this social media world, which I want to talk about, is you sometimes get lost. You don't know who to be in this entire, there's a lot of noise. But I feel people like Taylor Swift, they have their own way and they help you, that be you, try different things and try to figure out who you are.
Yeah, and going back to the behavior thing, I think that Airbnb was a really great example because the original mission, their desire, they're like, what do we want our consumers to have? And this is our shared thing.
Yeah.
We all want to live like locals in the place that we travel. We want to feel like a local. And so that started, it wasn't like we need to rent other people's houses. Like we want to create a platform so people could rent other. Yes, cheap housing, right? We want to create an opportunity where people can feel like locals. And that gave birth to the experiences, which has now become a whole other business channel for them,
Business model.
which is
Yeah.
doing phenomenally. So when you stick to that very focused intent of what I want people to get out of this experience, then you actually are able to create different channels of business that come off of it.
Depending on that.
And it does ladder up. It's not a rational or functional action. It's a much higher order benefit because Taylor wasn't like, I want them to buy my discs. She really wanted to be known, to be seen. So I want you to
Yeah.
read my lyrics, read my stories, and spend time with my stories. So I'm going to place some Easter eggs there. Now, of course, the collateral from that is phenomenal business because you listen to the songs more, you watch the videos more, you talk about it more. So it's a brilliant strategy.
The mission was something really different. So I like, from my standpoint as a person, and also I feel like in the industry, if you're growing yourself from a company perspective as a brand, and if you want to talk about consumer behaviors, I feel it's very important to figure that out, what you would like as a brand to do.
So thinking about the gaming industry, and this idea of very focused, like I want the user to do this. How do you see that playing out in the category?
Gaming, as I feel the entire industry or as a community of gamers, the mindset is trying to figure out what's happening in the next level. Because always I feel a group of gamers, the way they are coming as a community or having a tribe, feeling all together, is they want to figure out what's next. I love that. And that's how the entire concept of level one, level two, level three kind of came in. And I feel in the gaming industry, the thing that people are excited about is we want to create something different in level two. You feel that excitement again, that psychological, speaking of like level one has, you have already achieved that. And from taking some incentive from there, you can unlock level two and unlock level three. That's how I feel gamer as a community is able to hold a lot of people in that industry. And also as a community, people like to spend time together in gaming because that's very rewarding, right? You feel excited, you feel you're able to share your achievements with each other. I love the fact of, that community part in gaming. And the reason why they've been able to do it, in the industry, is because it is very, also like, I feel it's very easily appreciated and celebrated. By that I mean, you can imagine you are playing Candy Crush, you're playing Clash of Clans. You can invite people in that game and we all can play together. So that's also a community thing that they're trying to create in gaming, which is helping people to get to know each other, be a little bit more closer.
So I just wrote down a couple of keywords as you were talking and
Yeah.
thinking about how companies can work this into their plan. And I think one of the mistakes a lot of companies make is that they think silos, right? Like product launch has a
Yeah.
beginning date, has an ending date, and then they wait to see how it goes. And I think, especially what Taylor was saying, is how far out can I start planning this? So the idea of thinking about a product launch as just one thing and not as part of something bigger where there's
Mhm.
discovery, where there's curiosity, where there's connection through the lines. But the idea of creating the ability of discovery for one-upmanship, but also for sharing is a tactic that I think or a strategy that's dramatically underused in launches because most people think of like, okay, there's this and then it ends. And then there's this and then it ends. And it's like being invited to my party and then we don't talk again, you know? It's like,
Of course, you're not giving enough clues to make it exciting. And
right.
in this time and world, people sees everything. Like I
Yeah.
mean, I feel maybe 10 years ago there would be a very like groups are pretty close. Like people used to write letters, emails. Like now it's more like a tweet. People are tagging each other. I'm trying to send you a message that's also gets screenshot and you don't know where it is going in the entire world. So a lot of the people are looking at the information and that creates excitement and that creates conversation. I love the fact I used to love the game Road Rush when I was young from EA Games. In The Sims, the entire concept is you build your home and you build your community and you build your people and they see the entire journey of that person growing up. I remember we used to talk between our friends and be like, how is your home?
Yeah.
Like what cartoons did you choose? That was the conversation, which absolutely from gaming that comes in. It's a sense of community.
Yeah, and I think that's fundamental to I know what I want you to do with me, but it has to create what makes it powerful is that it creates the opportunity to connect with others and together as a whole to create a much
Absolutely.
bigger experience. And so you were saying you also work in HR, you work in HR for in the
Yes.
gaming industry. How do you see what we've been talking about playing out in HR?
I would say one of the things that I really have seen, I'm able to move people, like people get motivated when you feel a sense of connection to the greater good, to the mission of the company. When we onboard employees, we kind of show them this is what you are contributing to. This is where the main goal is. This is where we want to go. At that moment that, you know, euphoria moment happens and people are like, oh wow, like every work that I do is helping my company grow and individually where I need this help to grow. And I feel as a community in employees, like when if you think about an organization, there are different teams, right? There are different people. At the end of the day, is human beings. We all love connections.
So do you think if let's say the end goal then is to plug into the greater good or to see what you're doing
Yeah,
as part of a greater vision,
of course.
what are the specific behaviors then that you try and encourage to make that happen?
Absolutely. At first, awareness is important. They need to understand where the company is going, where the mission of the company is leading. That is very important. And then having smaller milestone incentives are pretty great. It could be a Slack message, it could be a message saying, hey, I saw you presenting about this topic in the organization, which was amazing. I loved your insights. Like saying that is very important. Recognizing an individual person, thanking them for the things that they're doing is another great way to have that connection. And I feel another thing that is very important is if something doesn't go right, right? Are you able to have that honest conversation? So I feel always having that honest conversation and getting that feedback from that individual person that we're trying to help, right? I love the concept of feedback feedback that I learned in one of the podcasts was like feed forward. That
Mm,
feed forward is a concept of when a person gives you some feedback, when you receive it, think about it, that you cannot go in the past and change it, but what you can do, take that information and solve it in the future. So it's kind of like feed forward. So I
mm.
love that concept, and that helped me understand these things a lot better.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. And it's kind of like what we've been talking about, engaging
Yeah,
people by bringing them into the future or making them see a future or imagining
absolutely.
what could be in the future.
Dreaming together. And I love that. And I feel people get motivated by that. And when a person is motivated and inspired to work with you, to be around you, I don't like other things come in a package. It's exactly like the marketing thing that we were talking about. That once you are aware, once you're engaged, you are going to have sale. You are not going to have turnovers. You are not going to have surveys where people are not happy because they are inspired, they're motivated, they know where you want to go. The thing that is really, really important in terms of brands is I feel you got to understand yourself as a brand, and starting from there is very important. Like sometimes we want to create a brand and we want to cater to someone that is profitable. As an example, I've also heard that a lot of times I want to be an engineer because tech is really good. I want to work in AI because AI is the hot thing. Absolutely try everything because you would not know what you like. But once you figure that out, that, hey, this is something I really like, try to hone on that. Try to create other things that you are excited about. The community will be formed around that.
Okay, Samiha. So this has been great. I don't know. Let me ask you one final question off the top of your head. Favorite Taylor Swift song?
You belong with me. I
Uh,
love that. You
all right.
belong with me. I love that. And then it's not to me. Grammatically, people said a lot of things, but that is the fact in life because you belong with me. I love that.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for being with me today.
Thank you. I had a great time.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Scintillations. If you've enjoyed listening to us, please subscribe, rate, and review. It helps us share our learnings with more curious and interested people like yourself. See you next time.